Day 622. Today there is a lot of news from the south. Here, Ukrainians have been conducting a lot of HIMARS and Storm Shadow strikes, and over the last week have targeted more than 20 Russian bases and forces concentrations. First of all, today local residents reported hearing a series of explosions near Taganrog, more specifically from the site of the military airfield northwest of the city. Geolocated footage from the region shows rising smoke in the distance, indicating that there was a strike. Russian sources reported that the Russian air defense intercepted at least one Ukrainian rocket, and that the remnants of the rocket fell on the cargo meant to be transported by the heavy airlifter Il-76, and that the aircraft remained intact. Interestingly, the governor of the region made the opposite claim to the mainstream media and said that the air defense was not working. Simultaneously, Ukrainian partisan group from Mariupol published footage of the Russian air defense near the airfield and claimed that as a result of their operations, the Russian air defense was unable to intercept Ukrainian missiles, leading to the explosions. After the explosions, Russians were seen removing the remnants of their aviation from the airfield, realizing that it is not well protected at the moment. And this is extremely important because according to the satellite footage released by Planet Labs, Russians plan to make it the new main airbase in the south. After Ukrainians conducted a devastating strike on the airfield in Berdyansk, destroying and damaging up to a dozen helicopters, Russians relocated 21 helicopters away from that region. So Russians gathered their helicopters on the Berdyansk airbase, thinking it was safe because it was out of HIMARS reach. After 30% of the fleet was destroyed in an Atacama strike, they relocated their helicopters to Taganrog, thinking it was safe because it was on Russian territory. And today, they were forced to relocate them even further. Such actions alleviated the pressure on the front substantially and gave Ukrainians more freedom of movement, because Russian assault helicopter Ka-52 cannot respond to the demands in time. But this is not the end. 2 days ago, a powerful explosion was caught on camera in the village of Sedova, which is right in between the previously mentioned airbases in Berdyansk and Taganrog. At first, some Russian sources claimed that it was as a result of an electrical short circuit in a warehouse. However, as it turned out, it was a repair facility for the helicopter. A day prior to the explosion in Sedova, Ukrainians conducted a comprehensive strike on Crimea and used not only drones and Storm Shadow and SCALP missiles, but also Neptune and decoy missiles. The moment Russians detected that Ukrainian Su-24M took off, Russians immediately deployed smoke screens around the Kerch Bridge in anticipation of an attempt to destroy it. Once Russians saw that missiles were heading in the direction of the bridge, Russians raised their jets to help intercept the missiles. Ukrainians anticipated such a response, which is why they launched Neptune missiles from the other side of Crimea, where Russians suffered constant drone strikes. According to Russian sources, Neptune missiles forced aviation to prioritize these targets first, increasing the chances of the SCALP missiles to get through. On top of that, multiple decoy and anti-radiation rockets were launched from the Kherson region, stretching the Russian air defense capabilities to the limit. As a result, many missiles indeed hit their target. However, as it turned out, it was not the bridge. It was a ship factory. SCALP was built in 2021 and was one of the newest and most modern ships in the Russian Black Sea Fleet. It could carry and launch 8-caliber missiles, it had its own air defense system Panzer M and a reconnaissance system Arlan-10. Judging by the footage of the damage, all analysts agree that the ship can be considered destroyed, as it is easier to build a new one than to repair this one. And this is very good news, because according to Ukrainian intelligence, Russians have been accumulating missiles in preparation for the massive missile strikes on the Ukrainian energy infrastructure. Right now, Russians reportedly have approximately 900 missiles of various types, just like last year. The fact that Ukrainians destroyed SCALP means that there are fewer carriers for those missiles, which should in principle decrease the scale of possible strikes, making them more manageable for the Ukrainian air defense. In the meantime, Ukrainian HIMARS crews have been destroying Russian bases closer to the contact line. Around the same time, Ukrainians decided to once again use the Bayraktar and HIMARS combo along the shore in the Kherson region. The footage shows how the drone operator detects and gives the coordinates to the HIMARS crews of the stationary targets, such as howitzers and tanks, and destroys with its own rockets mobile targets such as boats. One of the most devastating strikes happened to the Russian Atal battalion. A part of the battalion was caught during the relocation to the front, and more than 10 vehicles with people burned to ashes. Russian volunteers claimed that up to 120 soldiers were killed and wounded. Overall, Ukrainians conducted a lot of successful strikes over the last week. The main goal of most of these strikes was to reduce the Russian power in the air, by chasing Russian helicopters so far from the front lines that they no longer can timely react to the developments of the front, and by decreasing the number of strategic missile and rocket carriers. By the way, it was recently confirmed that Ukrainians will finally receive ATACMS missiles with a range of 300 kilometers. So in a few months, Russians in the deep rear will have very big problems.